All right, so some of the Falcons' pre-draft visits have started to come out, and a couple of names jumped off the page at me. I'm not throwing on the tinfoil hat just yet. This ain't conspiracy mode. We're talking hard facts here. Legit, confirmed pre-draft visits. And we got to talk about them. Now let's dive in, starting with the guys who are seriously in the mix for pick number 15. And then, I'll hit you with one of those eyebrow-raising moments. You know, the kind that makes you say, huh, what are we doing here, Atlanta? Here are the names: James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, Shamar Stewart the edge rusher, and then a couple of defensive backs, Will Johnson and Noel Williams, corrected from Nicky Murray, likely meant to be Williams. These guys? They feel like Plan B options in case the Falcons' top guy, Mike Green, isn't on the board when we get to 15. And listen, I remember digging into Green's tape back in January. Full weekend of grinding Marshall film while trying to explain to the fiancé why I'm not watching a rom-com, and instead am dialed in on the Thundering Herd. Fast forward, and now Green's blowing up boards all over the league. Falcons might not even have a shot at him at 15. Wouldn't shock me if the Bears snag him at 10, especially if Ashton Jeanty lands with the Raiders at 6. So let's say Green's gone. What's next for Atlanta? Here's how I'd rank those four dudes I mentioned. Will Johnson? Love that guy. I know DB ain't the top need. Edge rusher is, no doubt. But Johnson's the kind of dude you draft and later say, how the hell did he fall to 15? He missed a chunk of the 2024 season with injury, but in 2023, he made his name known. 8 pass breakups, 4 picks, and 3 pick sixes over the last 2 years at Michigan. That's not just production, that's impact. He's battled some injuries. Turf toe in 24, hamstring issues that kept him from testing at the Combine and Michigan's Pro Day. But rumor is, he's been able to run for teams in these visits. So if Atlanta saw that speed up close and feel good about it, I've got zero problem taking him at 15. Now, my second guy, James Pierce Jr., baby, my Tennessee Volunteer. This is me trying not to be a homer and putting him at number 1. But this dude is a problem off the edge. 7.5 sacks last season, and at one point folks thought he could go number 1 overall in this class. Didn't quite reach those heights, but he's still a first-round lock for me. What's the breakdown on Pierce? Pro, freak athlete, lightning off the edge, lives in the backfield, brings the juice. Con, that raw speed doesn't always translate at the next level, especially at defensive end. It's not just about flying past college tackles anymore. You gotta have a plan, technique, and a counter move or two. Let me put it like this. Imagine you're in 8th grade, and you're out there playing ball with your little brother's 6th grade buddies. You're bigger, stronger, faster. You're dominating, right? But then, boom, high school rolls around, and now you're playing with kids your own size. That edge you had? Gone. You're not the fastest guy on the field anymore. That's what it's like when you're a defensive end in college who relies almost entirely on speed. If speed makes up 90% of your game, you're in for a rude awakening when you hit the NFL. Because those offensive tackles, they're fast too. Not the slow dudes from your college schedule, not the guys from cupcake teams or the occasional Arkansas game. No offense to Arkansas. I mean, even on that night, James Pierce was cooking. But here's the deal. Speed alone ain't gonna cut it at the next level. That margin of difference, it shrinks big time in the NFL. Strength, though, now that's something that does translate. If you're strong and can move dudes off their spot in college, that power usually still hits on Sundays. So between our top 2 guys here, Will Johnson and James Pierce, who am I rolling with? It's Will Johnson. Now, is he going to fix your pass rushing problem overnight? Number. He's not a sack artist coming off the edge. But what he does give you is a potential all-pro secondary, and I mean real quick. Pair him with A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates III, and brother, you're looking at a straight-up no-fly zone inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're talking Hartfield-Jackson levels of lockdown coverage. Now let's shift gears and get into the what the hell is going on in Atlanta part of this. Pre-draft visits usually tell you where a team's head is at, not just for round 1, but throughout all 7 rounds. And when I saw that the Falcons brought in 2 offensive tackles for visits, Man, alarms went off. These aren't late-round flyer types either. These are guys expected to go somewhere between rounds 1 and 3. And let's not forget, the Falcons don't even have a third-round pick. Now, I don't think they're targeting one of these tackles at pick 15. But I'm also old enough to remember last year when I was convinced they wouldn't take Michael Penix Jr. at 8, and they absolutely did. So if you're asking, what's the wild card move Atlanta could pull this year? Don't be shocked if it's an offensive tackle. On paper, sounds like a terrible idea. But with this front office, nothing is off the table. Let's just be real here. This Falcons defense still needs a ton of help. And honestly, it might have gotten worse this offseason. Yeah, I'll give him a little credit. Swapping out Matt Judon for Leonard Floyd? That's an upgrade. But moving from Isaiah Simmons to that DB from Carolina? That feels like a step back. And they didn't exactly go out and make a splash to replace Grady Jarrett either. So yes, defense is the top priority, no question. But here's where it gets interesting. If you look past the surface level, I kind of get the idea of drafting an offensive tackle. And before you freak out, hear me out. It's not just some wild Terry Fontenot curveball. It's actually not the worst idea in the world to protect your young quarterback. Jake Matthews just got a fresh extension, and Caleb McGarry, he's heading into the last year of his deal. Now, if they think this is a good tackle class, spoiler alert, it's not. But I can understand the thinking, a little bit. Still, I'm not all the way in on it. Let's talk about one of the guys they brought in. Connerly, left tackle out of Oregon. Big-time recruit, hometown Seattle kid, 2-year starter for the Ducks. He's still a work in progress, though, and if his name sounds familiar, that's probably because you saw him getting bull rushed by Mike Green at the Senior Bowl. That clip? Yeah, it went everywhere. Now, to be fair, those one-on-one drills at the Senior Bowl totally skewed toward making the defensive guys look like gods. No O-lineman has help, no slide protection, nothing. It's just them on an island and the D-line teeing off. Still, you don't want to be the guy getting thrown around in those clips either. Now the other tackle they brought in, that's where it gets kind of spicy. Charles Grant from William and Mary. Big dude, 6 feet 4 inches, 309 pounds. And he's raw. Like, still sawdust on his shoulder pads raw. He didn't even start playing football until junior year of high school. He was a wrestler before that, which, if you've ever talked to a high school coach, they'll tell you they love having wrestlers on the line. Tough, gritty, built to battle. He was a 0-star recruit, redshirted year 1, then became a multi-year starter. This dude only gave up 1 hit all of 2024. I don't care who you're playing. That's legit. Yeah, people are going to question the competition level at William and Mary. I mean, come on. The Tribe? Still not sure if that's their name now or a rebrand from 300 years ago. Either way, the tape shows real athleticism. He didn't drown at the Senior Bowl either, so he held his own against better talent. But what's my stance on taking an offensive tackle in round 2? It's a no from me, dog. For 2 big reasons. This is not a good tackle class. This is not the Falcons' biggest need. So unless Charles Grant is the second coming of Lane Johnson, I ain't swinging on that pick. So let's wrap up this offensive line talk real quick. Look, I get it. Offensive tackle is a premium position. But if you're reaching just to fill that spot, and there are clearly better players on the board that could help your team more, that's bad ball. Here's the thing. Caleb McGarry is still under contract. Why not give the guy a shot at protecting Penix's blind side? If he figures out how to be more of a pass protector and not just a mauler in the run game, boom, you don't have to waste a top pick on a tackle this year. If he crashes and burns, then hey, we know what's at the top of the to-do list in next year's draft. So when you stack it up, weak tackle class, no third-round pick, and a right tackle already on the roster, yeah, I'm out on drafting a tackle early. Now, if Terry Fontenot does pull the trigger on an O-lineman in the first 2 rounds, on a 1 to 10 rage scale, I'm sitting at a 7. I'm not going to lie and say I won't watch the games. Come on. But yeah, I'd be annoyed. Now let's talk about a few other pre-draft visits, and just so we're all on the same page, this list is fluid. Guys can be added at any time. Also, local visits don't count against the 30 allotted, so you can bring in as many UGA dudes as you want. But yeah, no Mike Williams visit, which is kinda interesting. Most of the names on the current visit list look like day 3 guys, maybe even borderline undrafted free agents. It feels like Atlanta is doing some early homework on players they want to grab after the draft. The biggest name? TJ Sanders from South Carolina. He's got solid size at 6 feet 3 inches, 305. And here comes that word we all love, twitchy. By the way, drinking game for draft season. Every time someone on ESPN says twitchy, take a shot. You'll be unconscious by round 3. Back to Sanders, 2-year starter, mostly a rotational guy. Made some splash plays, but only averaged 36 snaps per game. So if you're drafting him in the 2nd round, you're expecting more than that. This feels more like a round 3 or 4 type. And since the Falcons don't have a 3rd, maybe he's a day 3 option in the 4th to try and fill the Grady Jarrett void. And look, Jarrett wasn't a 1st or 2nd rounder either. You can find gems late, but it's going to take some work. Right now, the D-line is young. You've got Zach Harrison, Rook Orhorhoro, some vets like David Onyemata, Morgan Fox, and Kentavious Street coming back too. But Rook, he's the guy to watch. 2nd-round pick last year, top 40. They want him to be that dude. And honestly, he might be. Don't sleep on Fox either. He's been a steady pro, brings a little more pass rush juice. All right, before we get out of here, I've been slacking on this. Time for a random viewer shout-out from the comments. Let's spin that digital wheel. Almost landed on King 7. Nope, it's Robert Smith. Robert, you legend, thanks for commenting. 2 claps for you, buddy. 1, 2. See y'all next time.